Josh, everyone's favorite topic. What is it?
Rolex.
And what do we love to do with Rolex?
Speculate.
That's right. We're speculating. Baselworld. We're between shows now, so we're in that trough between the high highs of SIHH and Baselworld. We're taking the Swiss tram, the train, perhaps 2 hours?
Yeah.
Maybe 2.5 hours?
That's right.
So
I don't know. You'll know, but not me.
Okay, so guys, now Rolex is always a hot button topic, and Rolex speculation runs wild. Josh, what have you heard so far?
So there's a ton of ideas bouncing around the internet. Was it Rolex Passion Report is sending? They've rendered a few different models, and anything from a Coke bezel GMT to a steel Yacht-Master with a ceramic bezel, and even a Day-Date annual calendar, which looks really, really interesting. And I think that some of these are going to be more outlandish than others, though.
Now, we actually have a picture of the Day-Date annual calendar mock-up. The fine folks over at Rolex Passion Report, all credit due to them.
Thanks, guys.
Created what they believe a Day-Date 40 annual calendar would look like.
That's
Obviously, this is not going to be done on the 36mm case.
No, it wouldn't fit.
And it's probably not going to be done on a bigger case size. I don't see them ever going bigger than 40 again with the Day-Date.
Right. And honestly, it makes sense. If Rolex were to do this, it would be within character, and it makes sense. I mean, it's a complication that already exists in the Sky Dweller, the counting the months as essentially dashes that follow around the dial. And I mean, looking at it, you don't notice it until you notice it, and then you notice it. Right?
That's right. It's perhaps, I mean, it's a counterpoint to Moser's take on a 12-month calendar. Very discreet. I will say that this is not entirely without precedent. Back in, I want to say 2000, 2001, Rolex was developing a second-generation Oyster Quartz Day-Date, and the idea was that that was going to have a perpetual calendar built into its programming.
Interesting.
I'll also say that prior to the 2007 release of the Yacht-Master II, this grade of complication is not something we ever would have expected from Rolex.
Right.
That was really a departure point to high complications.
And that's one thing that you don't really expect from Rolex, but you know, you'll never look for a Rolex Tourbillon. You don't really want one from them. You know, it's not within character. So simple complications, I think, make more sense to us. And even when you see, like with those original Yacht-Masters, with that original caliber, there were so many issues and things, so they have to work those things out. With a complication like this, it already exists within one of their movements, so it would make sense, and that would be something that I would recommend people to buy from the beginning, as opposed to waiting a few generations for them to work out the kinks, because it looks like, you know, they probably have already done that. If this were, in fact, a new release at Baselworld.
If it happens. Now, speculation, this is one of the strongest speculative models in terms of currency. It seems a lot of people are talking about it. More noise doesn't mean more likely.
Definitely not.
But at the same time, hey, let's run with it, because the internet's going crazy.
Well, I know you came up with an idea that it was out of left field, but it makes sense if you follow the breadcrumbs, and that was what?
Well, my personal thought is that there could be a ceramic bezel mid-cycle refresh of the somewhat unloved 42mm Explorer II.
Yeah.
I feel like that watch, which came out in 2011, replaced the well-loved 16570. It wasn't really a substitute, because not only did we go from a standard tapered case to a super case, all of you out there who know Rolex know what I mean by super case. It's the 40 that wears like a 42. And we went from an old-style Rolex 40 to a super case 42, which is almost like it gained 4mm of diameter. It wears like a 44.
Yeah.
It's a huge watch.
Big watch.
We don't see a lot of them.
I mean, when we do, you know, that's a watch that, in regards to the stainless steel sport watches, it tends to take a little bit of a larger hit in depreciation, just because, like you said, it's not as popular. They're not going to ship as many, so there's going to be more discounts, and there's going to be more people selling them after, you know, getting tired of having the larger watch.
In a lot of ways, it's almost like what happened after the Deep Sea debuted and replaced the 40mm Sea Dweller temporarily.
Right.
It didn't permanently replace it. It came back in 2014, but for a while there was a lot of resentment that we went from a beautifully tapered traditional case 40mm Sea Dweller to this ungodly huge Deep Sea. It was like 3 steps up in size, and the bracelet never matched the width of the lugs.
A Rolex panorama.
There was a huge reaction against the Deep Sea because of the model it replaced. And the same things happened with the Explorer II. I feel like the watch has now been out long enough with a minimal impact. We don't see too many of them, so it's not like there are a lot being bought and flipped to the secondary market. We're not seeing a whole lot of volume there, and we don't hear too many people asking about them.
No, I mean, every once in a while they'll get hot. You know, like the white dials tend to be a little bit more desirable than the black dials, but that changes also within time.
I'll also say that it's something that could work well because now Rolex has the ability to do, you know, a silver dial and a black ceramic bezel, and they know the aesthetic works well in the marketplace. So you can have that silver dial, or I should say really in the case of the Explorer II, it's a white dial.
That's right.
A white dial and a black ceramic bezel and a black ceramic bezel and a black dial. It nicely complements the existing dial color schemes in the Explorer II family. I will also say this. A stealth anniversary that's sneaking up on us is the 10th anniversary of the reborn modern Milgauss.
That's right. Which is an exciting watch for me. Like, that's always the under the radar Rolex that I always, if someone says, hey, listen, I want to have a Rolex, but I don't want people to know I'm wearing a Rolex, go for the Milgauss. It works every time.
Yeah. The 116-400 GV, we know it as the green crystal, launched like a supernova in 2007. It was a markup watch. It was a waitlist watch. How does it do today? I mean, does it still have any of its appeal?
Well, so they've released what a new version of this with the blue dial,
the Z Blue, yes,
right, which certainly does really, really well. It's doing better in fact in regards to the holding value than the black dial because it replaced that. Not the biggest fan of it, but it is really, really popular. Though, you know, I don't think that the watch gets the respect that it deserves. I personally like the white dial with the clear crystal. That's kind of one of the ones that I'm going to be adding to my collection in the near future, and you can get them pretty, you know, at a nice discount as a pre-owned piece. Makes sense. But I mean, your idea in regards to a new redo would be fantastic.
So here's my thought: if Rolex really wanted to blow out the cobwebs and light an absolute napalm fire. I'm talking like B-52 carpet bombing, mile of fire type stuff, that hot. They would say, look, 10th anniversary of the reborn Milgauss, let's do something we haven't seen in generations. Let's launch a tribute to the 6543 with a honeycomb dial and a rotating bezel. Now the 6543, that's your first Milgauss from 1955, maybe 80 to 100 pieces, not an anti-magnetic watch, but possibly the first amagnetic watch with special escapement components. This is a real hardcore collector Rolex, and I think a tribute to it in form and function would just pop eyes out of the skull. I think people would go crazy.
And when we talked about this earlier today and you sent me that email and I searched Rolex 6543, which I'm hoping people are doing as soon as this show is over, check it out. The watch looks so freaking cool. I was staring at it for like an hour. I lost track of the time. That I would be thrilled. Number one, now I have to figure out how I can find and afford one of the vintage ones, but if that was a re-edition, I'd be all over it.
And there have only been, I believe, 3 or 4 actual announced numbered Rolex limited editions in the past, and this would be the perfect watch and the perfect occasion to add one more installment to that hallowed and incredibly exclusive class of Rolex collectibles. So that's pretty much our speculation regarding where Rolex might go this year at Baselworld. There is the steel ceramic bezel Yacht-Master.
That's right.
Explain a little bit more what that constitutes.
Well, that would be a departure from every other Yacht-Master they've made so far, which has some sort of element of the precious metal, right? So whether it's going to be a platinum bezel or a full rose gold watch or a two-tone watch, in some way there's precious metal. So if they were to release a fully stainless steel with the ceramic bezel like they have on the rose gold versions now with the Oyster Flex bracelet or strap, or I guess they call it a bracelet, which my opinion is a flop. It's a nightmare having switched out and all these things, but people still do like these watches. That would be interesting, though probably not likely.
And here's the other thing. Straps, always a speculative point. Since the Oyster Flex debuted on the Yacht-Master, people have been saying, realistically, that's the rollout, but this is how Rolex works. The rollout of something new, cool, and exclusive starts with precious metal, and it works its way down to steel.
That's right.
I think we're going to see a strap on something this year. I don't know what. I don't know which model. I don't even know that Rolex is going to necessarily give up on straps plus precious metals just yet. It could be that maybe we see a gold sub with a strap. But make no mistake, Rolex recognizes that market and the enthusiast value of adding a slick rubber strap to a strong sports model.
Well, if they were to do something like that, I would beg them, please, if Rolex you're listening, because I know you are, have a sliding clasp. Please don't make me have to send in, if I gain weight or lose weight, send in one of the straps to get a replacement. That it's just like such a nightmare scenario. But otherwise, it makes sense, and it's a very comfortable strap. But if they could fix the whole adjusting the length of the strap on the fly, that would be perfect.
And I know like the Rubber Bee and Everest strap guys are like, don't do it, don't do it. The guys running those brands.
Yeah, it's understandable. And competition's always good.
Competition is good.
Always.